Good morning, students. How are we? I assume that you have attended the last 7 lectures on number system. Today, we are going to start a new topic, that is arithmetic progression. We are going to deal with these types of questions where we are given, let's say, 5th term, 28th term, and we are supposed to find the sum of first 32 terms. Don't worry, we are going to solve this question in a while. Give me 10 minutes and we'll be good to go. Now, if you observe, this is a series, and if you observe, there is a difference of 5. There is a difference of 5 between the consecutive terms. Any series having similar differences, or shall I say common differences, is termed as arithmetic progression. So as you can very clearly observe, 9, 14, 19, 24, 29. These are the questions generally you solve in reasoning. You observe that the difference between these numbers is 5, or shall I say common difference is 5. Common difference is represented by D. Over here, the common difference is 5. As you can see, the first term over here is 9. First term is represented by A, and in this case the first term is 9. Last term or nth term, last term is represented by L, nth term is represented by Tn. Both of them usually are same. In this case, although this is an infinite series, as you can see, it gets extended to infinite. But if I erase this section and say our series ends with 29, we'll say the last term or the nth term is 29. Simple as that. Now, as we clearly saw that the first term is represented as A and the consecutive terms are added by D. So the second term would be A plus D. The next term again would be added by D. That would become A plus 2D. Again, the next term would be added by D. A plus 2D plus D becomes A plus 3D. Simple as that. And this is how the arithmetic progression goes on. Now, there is actually a formula for general term which is represented by Tn A plus n minus 1 into D. Say that we are asked, let me copy this section. Put some space over in here. And we are asked, find the 10th term of this series. How do we do so? Very simple. We have the formula over here. We'll say T10, because the term we are supposed to find is 10th. We'll assume the n to be 10. T10 equals to A plus n, again would be 10, D, right? We know the value of A over here is 9, which is the first term, and the value of D is 5. Let me put the value of A and D over here, which is 9 and 5. We solve this, we get that would be 45 and 54. Simple as that. Don't need to actually calculate it all the way to 10. Okay, so over here is 29, we add 5 to this, we get 34 and then 39. Don't need to do that manually. We have a formula for that. Simple as that. Now, what happens is sometimes we are asked to find the position of a, we are supposed to find the position of a term. Let's say we are given, I'll copy the same question. I'll copy the same question. We are given that this is an AP which has terms all the way up to 54. Which position 54 occupies? Say 19 occupies third position, 24 occupies fourth position. They'll ask which position 54 occupies. We'll use this formula in that case. Again, this formula is derived from the previous formula only. So either you can learn this formula or you just use this formula. Well, I'd suggest learn that, because a lot number of times such questions has been asked where they ask the position of the term. So we'll write n equals to L. It is very clear, and it should be very clear. The last term is 54. The first term A is 9, and the common difference over here is 5. Okay, so we'll write L minus A by D plus 1 to be the value of n. We solve this, we get 45. 45 by 5 is 9. 9 plus 1 gives us 10. And we actually started with 10. If you observe, we started with finding the value of 10th term. The value for 10th term is 54, and the position of 54 is 10 itself. Very simple was that. Just learn these two formulas. Learn this and this formula. This will be very helpful to you. All right. Now let's solve a few questions. Very simple questions it would be. Say, I would say this is the same question which we just solved. You are given an AP 2, 7, 12, 17, all the way up to 137. You are supposed to find the position of 137. Let us assume the position of 137 to be n. Okay, so this would be our Tn. This is our A, and the common difference is, if you observe, it would be 5. You subtract 7 minus 2, you get 5. Simple as that. So we know the formula for Tn is A plus n minus 1 into D. Again, you can either use this formula or you can use, let me put some space, or you can use formula which is direct, L minus A by D plus 1. Both of them would yield the same results. If I use this formula, the value for Tn is 137. A over here is 2, n minus 1, and the D is 5. If you subtract this, you get 135. 135 by 5 equals to n minus 1, which is 2 and 7, 27. N would be equal to 28. Simple as that. You could have used this formula as well. You would have gotten the same answer. Next question, exactly the same, I'd say. Well, you can solve this. That would be your homework. You are supposed to solve this and comment the answer for this question. Now, let's move on to next concept. Now, generally when you are given 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on and so forth, you call that arithmetic progression. But when you are asked to find the value of 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 all the way to some certain term, you call that series, arithmetic series. How do we find the value of such questions? The formula is very simple. Sn equals to n by 2 a plus l. N is the position of the term, a is the first term, and l is the last term. Very clear it is. Now you know the formula for l is a plus n minus 1 into d. If you put the value of l to be a plus n minus 1 into d over here, you get 2a plus n minus 1 into d. So you have two such formula to find the value of Sn. depending on what you are provided with. Again, you have to learn these two formulae. No other way out. You cannot escape this. Alright, anyway, let's try to solve this question. You are given a series. Obviously, minus 9 would be our first term, that is A. How do we find D? We take any term and subtract the preceding term, that is minus 6. Again, minus 9, I'd say. Again, this could be confusing at times because when you are given, let's say in the previous question, you were given given basic thing, right? 2, 7, 12, 17, and you just said, okay, there is a difference of 5, very simple. But when it is given in negative, you need to remember the concept. You take any term and subtract the preceding term from it, like this. You get minus 6 plus 9, that is 3. Alright. You are also given that the sum of all terms is 45. We will say Sn given is 45. The formula for Sn is n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1 into d, which equals to 45. Put the values over in here. N by 2. The value for a is minus 9. The value for a is minus 9. 2 times minus 9 would be minus 18 plus n minus 1, and the value for d is 3, right? Equals to 45. Now what you do is, let me put some space over in here. Well, what you can do is move this 2 to this side. This becomes 90. And let me write this as minus 18 plus n minus 1 times 3. Well, we can divide the entire thing by 3. This comes 30. This gets cancelled. And this becomes minus 6. N anyway is present over here. If we solve this, we get n minus 7. N is over here. This is 30. Now, don't need to solve it completely. You can very clearly see I can write this as 10 times 3. The value of n would become 10. Similarly, n minus 7 would become 3. Right? So the value for n is 10. That is how we solve such questions. Next question. Sixth term and 17th term of a series is given. Let me write T6, which is 19, and T17, which is 96. We are supposed to find 25th term. Very simple is that we know the formula for Tn is a plus n minus 1 into d. We say if we put the value of n to be 17, we get 17 minus 1 is 16, a plus 16d. Let me write this as a plus 16d, which equals to 96. Similarly, if I put the value of n to be 6, I get 5 over here. So I can write this to be a plus 5d equals to 19. Now it is very obvious and clear that we need to subtract this. We get 11d, which equals to 77. D becomes 7. Put the value of d in any one of them. You get a. Let me put the value a plus 5 times 7 equals to 19. A equals to 19 minus 35. That would be minus 16. You get a and you as well get d. You find the value for T25, that comes out to be a plus 24d, which is minus 16 plus 24 times 7, which would be minus 16 plus 7 4s are 28, 2, that is 16. You subtract 16 from 168, you get 152. Do we have option 152? Yes, we do. That is option C. Simple was that. Now, you can solve it using another method, although it is very similar, but a little bit fast, I'd say. What you do is you assume that T17 minus T6 would give us 11D, right? 17 minus 6 is 11. So it would anyway give us 11D. 11D equals to 96 minus 9 would give us 77. So that becomes 7. D becomes 7 over here. Now if you add 8D to T17, you get T25. Simple as that. The value of T17 is 96. You could write 96 over here. 8 times 7. It would anyway become 152, which is option C. So there are multiple methods to solve such question. This one being a little bit fast, and this one was traditional method. Again, when I used to solve in exams, I generally used to prefer traditional method because although it takes 10 more seconds, but it saves me the hazard of making mistakes. Okay, so either you can use this method and give up 10 seconds, or you can use this method and risk making mistakes. That's completely up to you. Next question. Now, we are going to learn a new concept, that is TA plus TB equals to TM plus TN if A plus B equals to M plus N. I'll explain that, don't worry. Let's say this is an AP 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. What if I add these two? T1 plus T5 equals to 20, right? 6 plus 14 is 20. Similarly, T2 plus T4 equals to 8 plus 12 equals to 20. So can I write T1 plus T5 equals to T2 plus T4? Yes, we can, because both of them equals 20. And you can very clearly observe that sum of 1 and 5 and sum of 2 and 4 is equal. So I came to a conclusion that TA plus TB would be equal to TM plus TN only if A and B, the sum of A and B equals to the sum of M and N. Keep this in mind. Nothing a very big deal, but keep this in mind. That will help you actually. Let's solve the next question. Very simple. Again, sum of, you are supposed to find the sum of 32 terms. Let me write S32. Question says find the sum of first 32 terms. We know the formula for Sn. Let me write the formula for Sn first. Formula for Sn equals to n by 2 a plus l. We'll use the same formula. N over here is 32. A plus l, that would be 16. A can be written as T1 and L in this case would be T32. Why? Because you are supposed to find the sum of 32 terms. Now, we are given 5th term and 28th term. T5 is 108 and T28 is 250. It would have been great if we were have given the value for T1 and T32, but unfortunately we are not given that. But if we observe, the sum for 5 and 28 is 33, and the sum for T1 and 1 and 32 is 33. Shall we write T1 plus T32 equals to T5 plus T28? Yes, we can. Therefore, it would be 16 multiplied T1 plus T32 equals to T5 plus T28, and the sum for these two would be 358. I'll write 358 over here. Now we'll have to multiply. If we use a unit digit, we can very clearly see that it is 6 and 8 over here. That is 8 6 are 48. These two can be our potential answers. Well, we are not getting any other option. Can we see the multiple of 3? Nope, they are not multiple of 3 as well. We'll have to check with the divisibility of 16 or maybe 8. This is divisible by 8. Let's check with the divisibility of 8. This one is divisible by 8. This one ain't. So we'll say option A to be correct. Simple as that. Now, this was the easy trick based method. Although you are supposed to use this, the examiner expects you to solve using this method. But if you are not comfortable with this, although you should be, what you will say is T5, you are given the value for T5. The formula for T5 would be A plus 4D, which equals to 108. And T28, it would be A plus 727. A plus 2070, which would be 250. You will subtract these, you get 23D, and whatever over here you get the value for D. You get the value for D. You put the value of D in any one of these, you get the value for A, and you use the formula. You use the formula Sn equals to n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1 into D. That will be lengthy method, no doubt, but again, if you're using basic method, you will have to cope up with this. The value for n anyway has been given 32, right? This was the solution for this question. Next question. Again, a simple question. Let me write the question first of all. 1 plus 5 plus 6, 10, 11, 15, 16, 20, and so on. Now, I can very clearly see that this is not an AP. There is a difference of 4, difference of 1, 4, 1. Does not sounds or looks like an AP. What we'll do is instead, if we observe these two, there is a difference of 5. These two, there is a difference of 5 again. Difference of 5. And if we observe these, now they look like two different AP. Well, we can solve them separately, or what we'll do is, since we got two different APs, we'll add two terms each. What we'll say is, let's add 1 and 5, 6 and 10, 10 and 15, and so on. It will come out to be 6, 16, 26, 36, all the way up to, well, we don't know where it will end, but we had 200 terms in total. We added and made a batch of 2. So now we'll be left with how many terms? 100 terms. Now we can solve them with very ease. That would be Sn equals to n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1 into D. Let me put some space. We are supposed to find S100, right? Because the value for n is 100. 100 by 2. A over here is 6. That is 6 times 2 would be 12 plus n minus 1 would be 99 times D, as we know, is 10. That would be, if I can, I would divide 12 by 2. That would be 6 and this would be 5. That comes out to be 100 times. That would be 45, 495, 501. Final answer is 50100, which is option C. Simple as that. Next question. Again, very similar question what we solved just now. Let me write the question. 1 minus 10 plus 3 minus 12 plus 5 minus 14 plus 7 and so on up to 60 terms. Keep this in mind, 60 terms. Again, I can very clearly see this is not an AP. No way this is an AP. But what I can very clearly see is 1 and 3 are in AP, 3 and 5 as well are in AP, 5 and 7 in AP. Similarly, 10, 12, 14 AP. So we have two different APs. So we are going to take two terms together and solve them. That would be minus 9 plus minus 9 plus minus 9 all the way up to 30 terms. Why? Because we made a pair of 2. We divide 60 by 2, we get 30. Now that is simple. No need to use an AP. You'll just say 9 times 30. That would be negative 270. Simple as that. Next question, or maybe the last question I'd say. Question is 5 minus 8 plus 13 minus plus 7 minus 11 plus 17 plus 9 minus 14 plus 21 all the way up to 99 terms, right? Let me put some space. Now again, this is not an AP, but what I can see is 5 and 7 are in AP, 7 and 9 and so on, right? There is a difference of 2. 8, 11 and 14 are in AP, difference of 3, and 13, 17, 21 are in AP. So there are 3 different APs. We are going to use the sum of or the batch of 3 terms. We will add these 3, add these 3, again add these 3, and then we are going to use our AP method. 5 minus 8, that is minus 3, plus 13 is 10. 7 minus 11 is minus 3, plus 17 would be 14. 9 minus 14 minus 5, that would be 16. Well, I guess this does not looks like an AP. Maybe because I made a mistake and I'd say 7 minus 11 is minus 4 and minus 4 plus 17 is 13. All the way up to how many terms? 33 terms, because we took 3 pairs, pair of 3. So we'll divide 99 by 3. Now we'll use the formula Sn equals to n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1 times t. That will be 33 by 2. A over here is 10, that would be 20, plus again n is 33, 33 minus 1 would be 32 times d is 3, right? We'll solve it. Or else I like to check for divisibility of 11 and 3. If possible, we'll see that is 11. This is not divisible by 11. 9 and 7, 16. This is divisible by 11. 13. 13 and 2 divisible by 11. 9 and 9 divisible by 11. Let's check with the divisibility of 3, maybe that would work. 9, 8 and 4 divisible by 3. 9 and 10 again divisible by 3. Well, that does not works out. We'll have to solve then in that case. Let me put some space. That will be, let us divide 20 by 2, that is 10, and this would be 16. 48, that would be 58. 33 times 58. Maybe unit digit would work. 8 3s are 24. And the only option having unit digit 4 is option C. Now, you apply these types of tricks. Sometimes they get applied, sometimes they don't. That is up to your luck, but you are supposed to apply them. Barely takes 5 or 10 seconds, but most of the time it works. What is the sum of all the three digits which are divisible by 15? Now, the smallest three digit is 100. The largest three digit is 999. We are supposed to find a number just greater than 100 which is divisible by 15. I'd say that is 105, and a number less than 999, just less than 999 divisible by 15. 900 is divisible by 15. 990 would be great. We are supposed to find the sum of all those digits. What we say is, if we have an AP 105, if we add, that would be 120, 135, all the way up to 990. This would turn out to be an AP, and this is the collection of all the three-digit number which are divisible by 15. Now, that is very easy, I'd say. What we are supposed to do is find Sn. Formula for Sn is n by 2. Since you know the first term, you'll write A, and you as well know the last term, you'll write L. But the only problem is you don't know the value for n. How do we find the value for n? We know Dn equals to A plus n minus 1 into D. Tn is 990 as we saw. A is 105. N minus 1, and D over here is 15, right? There is a difference of 15 because they are multiple of 15. Divide it by 15, I'd say. Divide the entire thing by 15. Well, I do not like subtracting and all. I'll just divide 15. That gives us 7. And this would be 6. And again 6, I'd say. 7 minus 1 would be 6. Subtract 6 over here, that would be 60. N, the value for n is 60. Just put the values. 60 by 2. A is 105 and L is 990. You solve for this, that comes out to be 30 times 1095. Can we use unit digit? No, everyone has 0 with it. But we can very clearly see that it will just have 1 0. It will just have 1 0. So this option gets eliminated. This option as well gets eliminated. We have two such options. Well, we can check with the divisibility of 3, I'd say. Let's check with the divisibility of 3. This is not divisible by, okay, this one. 5, and this one is divisible by 3. Let's check with this. This one is not divisible by 3. So the only option divisible by 3 is option C. Simple as that. Now, what I want you to understand is, although this was the actual method by which you are supposed to solve these types of questions, but what you can think before, even before you had started solving this question, I assume that you all have understood and you all know how to solve using this method, but need to understand, if we have all the numbers divisible by 15, these are all the numbers divisible by 15, the sum of theirs would as well be divisible by 15. Now, if without even raising our pen, we would have thought that let's check with the divisibility of 15, maybe our luck would have been on our side. Let's since 15 is a multiple of 3 and 5, I can very clearly see this is not a multiple of 5, so option B won't be our answer. Now let's check with the divisibility of 3, I'd say. This one is not divisible by 3, this one as well is not divisible by 3. Only option which is divisible by 3 and 5 is option C, and therefore we got our answer. Now if we have our bad luck, right, like my luck, always on the worst side, you will have to solve such question with proper method. But most of the time, believe me, the examiner expects you to solve these questions using these methods, these tricks. So keep these tricks in mind, that will help you in the longer run. Was that the last question? Yep, that was the last question. All right, this was all about AP. In the next class, we'll have GP and HP. Okay, I hope you liked the class. If you liked it, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment the answer for this question. Where is it? Comment the answer for this question in the comment box. Thank you. Have a nice day. I'll see you in the next class.